Funny you should say, Matt, that it's kind of Matrix music, right? The thing is, for me, when I first heard that music, it made me think of John Wick, right? One of the scenes where he's shooting up people in a nightclub or something like that. So Tron, yeah, that would work as well. But yeah, big Matrix fans. So Matrix, John Wick, anything with Keanu Reeves in it, right? Hey, welcome back, everyone. Yeah, it's been a minute, right? We've had a lot of projects going on, a lot of things happening. We've been kind of going back and forth from live streams to Zoom and so forth. Those of you who are in my class, those of you who aren't, it's always great to have you along, and I'm glad to see you. Hey, today we are talking about business research. I know. Sounds totally dull. I get it. But we're going to try to make it not, right? Now, when we're talking about business research, we are talking about secondary business research right now, okay? Secondary research, meaning we are researching what others have already researched. You know, we're looking for articles, we're looking for journal articles, we're looking for studies, we're looking for things of this nature. We're not talking about primary research, okay? Primary research is when we go out and actually collect the data. Now, you can totally do primary research. You can run surveys, you can do interviews, you can do focus groups, you can do anything of that nature. But today what we're talking about is secondary research for business purposes and pretty much what makes credible research. All right? So with that, holy smokes, 1:30 a.m. What you doing, man? What you doing? Shouldn't be up at 1:30 a.m. watching this stuff, especially conducting business research. That's all right. Your contributions are going to get these folks some points. They're not going to mind that. Okay, conducting business research. All right, so now real quick, just so you know, everything we're going to talk about today is actually out on an article that I have on my website, Nutshell Brainery. I have a website called nutshellbrainery.com, and out there is an article and a video that talks about evaluating articles for credibility. Now, warning, this article and this video right here is really geared toward PhD level or master's level. Let's say master's. So one day you're going to be working on a master's thesis, or you're going to be working on a PhD dissertation. When that time comes, you're going to really need to get into the weeds of what makes a credible research study to cite for your thesis or dissertation. This video and this article here, along with this little checklist that's right there, gives you everything you need to know about evaluating research and study articles for credibility. We're not going to go that deep today. I'm going to hook you up for everything you need for basically, let's say, bachelor's level. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like at bachelor's we care less about credibility. Not at all. We really care about credibility, but we don't need to get quite into the weeds of it. All right? So if you're interested, you can run on out there and check that out. All right. Now, the first thing is, so what? Let's talk about this. And this is where we're going to get some of those cool participation points, right? Why does credibility of research and data matter in business? And think about it in terms of in business. It's one thing to say, okay, well, if I'm conducting a research study, let's say that we're researching the COVID vaccine. It's really important that we have credible, good, solid, valid data so that we know how to measure the efficacy and risks of a vaccine. We get that, right? What about in business? And Drew is totally onto it, right? Let's think about this. Let's take a moment and ask ourselves, and I got to find my question one there, right? It's been so long since I've done this that I can't find my question one. We'll just come back over to this. What's the purpose? Why do we care about credibility of data and research in business? All right, let's try that. Okay, let's come on back. And here's the question, Matt. I'm sorry if we went through it too quickly. Totally understand. Why does credibility of research and data matter in business? So this is a business communication class. Why do we care about the credibility and validity of data? Now, by the way, we've got a couple of great comments here, so we're going to go ahead and start racking up these points, right? Let's see here. Sorry, that one. Okay. Business decisions affect the bottom line and also business continuity. Okay. This is really good. Let's break down these 2 points. All right. So, first of all, affects the bottom line. All right. When you are making decisions in business, especially when you are really at the height of your career, it is not hyperbole. It is not an exaggeration to say that you will be making decisions that affect, multi-million dollar, you will be making multi-million dollar decisions. There we go. You're going to be making multi-million dollar decisions. Now, just to back that up with a little reality, when I was with Intel Corporation for a short while, they're the ones who make the chips, the CPUs, if you're not running AMD, right? Don't mention that. That's a sore spot. Anyway, when I was a purchaser for Intel at a fab in Massachusetts, I was a low-level purchaser. Low level. And I spent probably about $1 million a day. Low-level purchasing guy, and I'm spending $1 million a day. And I need to make those decisions based on data. Now, we had big, huge spreadsheets. They were called BOMs, B-O-M, Build of Material. And we had all these, inputs and outputs and so on. So I was running spreadsheets all day long to figure out how best to spend $1 million a day. So you will be making decisions that affect the company for long term. And that brings me to the second point that he made, which is business continuity. Data is going to help you forecast, right? I'm old enough to where I can say, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I have seen the pendulum go back and forth so many times that you start to realize, you know what? Forecasting isn't really voodoo science. It's really understanding history. It's understanding the economy. It's understanding the industry, and it's understanding the data. In the movie Groundhog Day, Bill Murray says one time, he says, you know, I am a god. And she's like, you're a god? And he says, well, not the big G. He says, listen, maybe I'm not a god, or maybe I don't know everything. Maybe God has just been around long enough that he's seen it all happen, so he knows what's going to happen next. Data really kind of helps us understand what's happening and helps us forecast for the future and, yes, mitigate for risk. Absolutely. Okay, so you want data to back up your claims. When you have data, it shows that you can back up what you're saying, right? Makes you more credible. Okay, Brian, this is here's the number. This is freaking massive, okay? I want everybody to take Brian's, comment there and really embrace it, all right? Here's the thing about data versus opinions. An opinion is like a belly button. Everyone's got one, and it's pretty useless, all right? I don't care what your opinion is. I've got my own opinions. My opinions are better than your opinions. You know what I'm saying, right? But now data gets the room to listen to you. If you are credible, if you're supporting it with data, if all of your assertions can be demonstrated in the data, in the research, then people are going to put more weight on your opinions, your assertions, your proposals. You will be making business proposals pretty much every day of your career if you go into business. Now, some business proposals are simply talking to a customer. Other business proposals are to the CEO or the board of directors to say which direction you think the company ought to go. They go from teeny tiny proposals to great big huge proposals. But the constant factor between all those is you got to be credible. You got to know what you're talking about. So I really like that. Matt, it's important to have proven data to help guide your decisions. Otherwise, it might be a shot in the dark. Research and stats give you good ideas, more effective approaches. Positively, okay? Here's one thing that's really important about data is that it shows you, or at least it points you in the direction of what's really happening versus your own mindset. I'm going to give you an example. Right now, actually, I'm working for somebody else's consulting firm right now. So it's not my consulting firm, somebody else's consulting firm. We are doing some data research, primary data research for Intel Corporation. Okay, so Intel is paying us to do an employee value proposition study. Anyway, we have our ideas on what we're going to find. And furthermore, our clients have their ideas on what they think we're going to find. But I'm telling you, folks, it's really exciting. When we're analyzing the data, we start to realize that assumptions we had were not really correct. They were wrong. And furthermore, things that we did not see at all, things that would have blindsided us, that were in our blind spot, start to come forth. Therefore, just as Matt says, they can help guide your decisions because the data will show you which direction is most apt to be effective, as you say, successful, so on and so forth. Nice. To increase the reputation and trustworthiness of the company. Yes. Okay. Companies that, okay. All right. When a company makes an assertion, or when they say, hey, this is what happened in this audit, or this is what happened in this whatever and so forth, if the company is not perceived as credible and working with good, solid data and methodologies get deeper than what we're doing today. But if you want to know more about that, check out that article I wrote. If they're not using really good methodologies and so forth, then the credibility of their findings are going to be totally shot, right? Absolutely. Okay, you guys get it. Of course you get it, right? You get it. You know, data-driven decisions. You want to make sure that everything you do in business is data-driven. Now, let's talk about data-driven for a moment, right? A lot of companies really love to, Intel, for example, eBay, PayPal, Amazon, they love to say, we make data-driven decisions. Okay, yes, but your gut does matter. Your intuition does matter. Your understanding of history and the economy, it does matter. But leaders who just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, that doesn't always turn out well. And so we really want good, solid, data-driven decisions. Now, when it comes to an assignment that those of you who are in my class have coming up, you have corporate training coming up. You're going to do a two-part assignment. I apologize to those who aren't in the class. Just give me 2 minutes. You're going to be doing an assignment, two-part assignment, in which you will do some research, write basically an article about a given topic, and then you are going to train employees and managers on that particular topic. Well, now, I'm going to ask this question right here. Given the purpose of corporate training, you have all been in employee training. You have all been in employee training. So you understand the purpose, and you have also been the audience. So we're going to ask the same question, but slightly more nuanced. All right? So put down your phone, turn off the game, or just pause the game for a minute, and let me ask you this. What is the importance of credible research and data when you are performing corporate training? Thinking of you as the audience, you're sitting there. Why do you care when you're being trained as an employee about the validity of the research? Okay, so think about that. Now, as you do that, Tony R. here, he says unreliable data can lead to the company to overshoot or undershoot the market. You know what? So this is good. This is really good. One of the reasons I really like this one, as you're thinking about the answer to this, folks, is business history is replete with examples of companies that overestimate the market, right? Overshoot. They think, oh, everybody's going to want one of these. They make too many. They upscale way too much, and so on and so forth. But there are just as many and just as many fascinating examples of companies that underestimate the market and can't meet the need of the market. And on one hand, you think, oh, what a beautiful problem to have that you're unable to meet the need of the market because people want your product so bad. Well, yeah, but you can go out of business just as easily for being unable to meet the need, because then somebody else can swoop in and meet the need and take your customers away. So absolutely great. Okay. Let me ask you this to help you with this question. When you are in corporate training, put yourself in that mind right now. When you are in corporate training, do you want to be there? Are you enjoying it? Do you feel that it's time well spent? Or are you just kind of waiting for time to pass and looking at the clock, right? So think about that as we go forward talking about the credibility of information, okay? Because as you put together corporate training events and PowerPoints and seminars and workshops and so forth, you need to really think about where your audience is. So, you know, as Matt says, oftentimes no, but it's necessary to get up to speed. Most people, Matt, as you kind of suggest there, go into training thinking, all right, it's necessary, I guess, whatever. It'll get me up to speed. We want to make it better than that, right? We want to make it better than that. Okay, let's go on. So, what makes a source credible? All right, what I first want to talk about is at a very high level what we should consider when we're looking for credible sources. After that, we're going to talk about where to find credible sources. Okay, so let's first look at what makes a source credible, then we'll talk about where to find those things. All right, first thing, credibility of the publication. Okay, so in other words, who's publishing the data? All right, is it a news source? Is it a website? Is it a blog? Is it a YouTube video, right? Is it a journal? Is it a university? Is it a think tank, right? What is the credibility of the publication? Now, when we look at the publication or the source, whoever is publishing it, we want to ask ourselves, are they unbiased or are they agenda driven? Now, it doesn't necessarily, if they're agenda driven, meaning they actually want to persuade you on something, they want to take you over to this way of thinking, that doesn't necessarily mean that the data is no good, but it definitely means you need to look at it with a healthy dose of skepticism, right? So are they unbiased or are they agenda driven? Is the source peer reviewed? Now, when it comes to peer reviewed, and I'll show you where you can find these, don't worry, we're going to talk about where. A peer reviewed study is one in which, okay, a researcher goes off and does a study and then submits it for publication. But the publisher first sends that study out to a whole bunch of other researchers, right? And they say, check out this research, read this article, test their assumptions and so forth, and let us know if this research is valid, robust, and credible. And so then the idea is all the peers would say, yes, this is a really good study. It's well done. It's well designed. It's well executed. Therefore, it can be published and they can say this is a peer-reviewed study. Now, not all peer-reviewed studies are created equal, but it's a good bet that you've got something fairly solid then. And then you want to look at, is it a well-regarded publication? Some publications, okay, we're going to hit citations. Some publications are a little more robust than others. We're going to talk about that. So you want to think about where is it published in terms of whether it's well regarded. Now, Tony just mentioned citations. He's right. And this is where we get into the minutia of just a little bit. And we're going to talk about this when we talk about sources. The more, in general, not always. By the way, in research, you never say things like always, right? Because there's never an always. Anyway, in general, the more a source is cited, the more credible the community considers it to be. So there are some sources, we're going to look at one, say like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's impossible to measure how many times Maslow has been cited because Maslow's hierarchy of needs is like rock solid, right? Although it has been changed, nevertheless, it's considered a seminal work. We'll talk about that. On the other hand, my PhD dissertation has been cited 4 times. Yeah, that's not a lot, okay? So, yes, citations do matter. We're going to talk about that. Very good. And as a matter of fact, that gets us another awesome comment. Fantastic. Okay, let's keep going. Credibility of the authors. Okay, you got to ask, who are these jokers? Who are the authors, right? So are they practitioners in their field? Now, I want to be clear about this. Practitioners in their field, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that they may not be medical doctors or PhDs or attorneys and so on and so forth. The question is, are they researching and publishing things that are in their field, in their area of expertise? So, for example, my PhD is in psychology. So if I'm doing an employee value proposition study with Intel and we're looking at the psychological aspects of an employee's relationship to the company, I'm a credible source. I'm good. However, if we're talking about the medical industry, I am not a credible source. And so if I'm publishing something on medical studies and so forth, you should be like, despite the fact that he has PhD after his name, no, he is not a credible source, okay? One time, it was so funny. I found this article that was published by a medical doctor. So you go, well, hey, medical doctor, right? Guy's gone through medical school, all that sort of stuff. So he's got to know what he's talking about. Well, what was the article about? The article was about where extraterrestrial aliens are more likely to be living on the earth currently right now. And his assertion was they were living way underwater, like in the Marianas Trench. That's why we can't see them, because we don't have the technology to go down and look at the Marianas Trench. Therefore, logic dictates that's where aliens are living. Well, despite the fact he's a medical doctor, he's not working in his field of study, right? Okay. Choose the known giants of the fields, not the midgets in the field. Oh, I like that. I like that. That's really good. That's really good. That is cool. I've never heard that one before. Okay. So, are they practitioners in their field? You want practitioners in, or are they students cutting their teeth? There's nothing wrong with citing something from a student. So those who cited my PhD dissertation, I was a student cutting my teeth. There's nothing wrong with citing me, but you sure shouldn't build your entire theory and premise on my research, because at the time, I was new, right? Or are they consultants with a financial motive? Well, now, guys, I'm a consultant. I do consulting work for big, huge, large multinational corporations. I have a financial motive, right? Therefore, I need to take extra steps to make sure that my biases are mitigated and that I am being as unbiased as possible. And that includes hiring other people who have zero bias in this field to help validate my research. But if you find out that research was conducted by consultants, you kind of need to look at that a little carefully. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Purpose of the study. What was the actual purpose of the study that they're looking at, right? Now, in theory, what we'd really like are studies that are out there just adding to the current body of knowledge. There's no agenda to why they're doing the study. They're just doing the study to do it, right? I heard about this one, and it's a podcast on NPR's, oh gosh, I think it was Planet Money or something. I don't know, one of those podcasts, right? And they're talking about a study in which they were studying basically the longevity, shelf life of a Twinkie, because they discovered this, 8-year-old eight-year-old mummified Twinkie, and they looked at it and it was all shriveled up. It looked like basically a fig, and they're like, oh my gosh, what caused this? And so they're doing all kinds of studies on this mummified Twinkie to see what caused it, what bacteria did it, was it bacteria, how did they interact with what chemicals, and so on and so forth. They don't have any agenda other than these researchers are bored, right? But they're actually going to add to some body of knowledge, right? On the other hand, you're going to find studies where they're kind of pushing forward an agenda, right? You're going to find studies where they're kind of saying, hey, this is what we believe and here's the data to support us. Therefore, we want you to get vaccinated or not get vaccinated, or eat meat or not eat meat, or drink caffeine or not drink caffeine, right? Now, in some cases, they were just adding to the body of knowledge. But in other cases, they're actually saying, hey, you should all be gluten-free. Look at all this research saying you should be gluten-free. By the way, I'm gluten-free in full disclosure, right? But they're pressing forward an agenda, so you need to look at the research somewhat skeptically. Or are they just outright trying to sell something, right? In which case, you should probably run and hide. Okay. Next one, literature review. All right, when Tony talked about citations, this is what he's talking about, okay? A good research study includes what we call a literature review. So let me first explain what a literature review is. It is a kind of a list. Think of an annotated bibliography, but in paragraph form, right? It's a list of all the prior research done on this topic by not only the giants in the field, right, but also the most recent studies. So when we talk about literature, we look at the latest research. So you want to make sure that if you're doing a review, if you're researching something right now in 2021, you want stuff that's been done in 2018, 19, 20, things like that, right? As well as seminal works. Seminal works are kind of like those works, and they might be 30, 40, 50 years old, that really defined the field, that really broke through in a significant way. So, for example, I mentioned Maslow in Hierarchy of Needs. Maslow published his stuff, I think, in like 1947 or something like that. It's old, right? But it's seminal. It still holds water today. Or the Tuckman model of forming, storming, norming, performing. That was done in the 1960s, but it still holds water today. Those are the seminal works. If you're looking at research that does not cite the seminal works or the latest research, the credibility is suspect, because that means they're not couching what they're researching themselves in the larger body of what's going on, right? You also want to consider the context. If, let's say, for example, that you're researching the effectiveness of working from home, and you're looking at stuff from 2015 or 16 or 17 or 18, stuff that happened before the COVID pandemic, then I wouldn't really look at that stuff as much as I would stuff that was studied in 2020 and 21, because the environment has changed, the technology has changed, the expectations have changed, the work habits have changed. And so there are some things that are just very, very specific to a certain time. And any research you include before that is kind of like, well, that's really old news. Okay? Now, last one. I think it's the last one. Let's check. Yes. Okay, last one before we talk about where to get your research. Presentation of the findings. At best, you want to find, when they talk about their findings and what they've discovered, you want to see a presentation of all sides, right? You want to see a discussion of all sides. What you really don't want is anything that belittles or ridicules the other side. Okay, so for example, let's take vaccinations, for example, right? Vaccinations are highly controversial right now. If you find articles and research that, now, personally, I am pro-vaccination, but we're going to come back to this because I'm going to give you the other side. If you find research and articles and so forth that are pro-vaccination and belittles the anti-vaxxers, oh, the anti-vaxxers, they're all uneducated, nonsensical nitwits and, what... No. Okay, that's not a credible argument. You know, it's like, I should win the argument because they're dumb. That's not how you win an argument. A good argument would include all the reasons why the anti-vaxxers are anti-vaxxer and to actually give credence to their position. Now, by the way, just so you know, if you want examples of where vaccination programs have gone awry, have gone wrong, they're out there. Trust me, they're out there. You can look at the Tuskegee experiment, and you can look at vaccination rolled out here in the last 10 years, one off in, I think it was the Philippines. I can send you the sources if you're curious to know more. There are plenty of examples of where vaccination has been done poorly, unethically, and have been ineffective, right? Well, yeah. And there's also plenty of examples of where cars kill people. But that's not going to stop you from driving a car, right? So a sample size of 1 or 2 or even 3 studies that have gone awry does not mean that the entire vaccination, program is off center. Nevertheless, you need to respect the points of view of others and actually make a case toward those points of view to help support your own, okay? So, all right, so you want to look at the presentation of the findings. Very good. Okay, so where are you going to find these credible sources that I keep talking about here? All right? Well, I'm going to go in order of resistance, right? Basically, I'm going to start with the easiest darn ones, and then we're going to get more and more involved, all right? So, Wikipedia. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hold on, wait, you can cite Wikipedia? No, you can't cite Wikipedia. However, it's a fascinating place to start. Let me show you how. So first of all, I'm going to come on down here. Yeah, I'm going to come down here, and then I'm going to pull up our, here we go. Here's Wikipedia. Here's Wikipedia on self-esteem. This is an area of expertise for myself, so I can talk about self-esteem. All right. So, no, I don't want to do that. Do I want to cite Wikipedia? No, but it's a great place to kind of get an understanding of where the research is, what the research is, and so forth. And so let's say, for example, I'm coming down and I come across, hey, check this out. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Pyramid of Maslow. Well, all this information in here, you notice there are citations for this information. So I can go all the way down to the bottom of Wikipedia, and here are the sources. This is where I should be looking if I want to cite a source. And so in here somewhere, trust me, it's here, we could find Maslow, right? I don't know. He's in there. I know I've found him. But a lot of seminal works in here are in here, right? So, like, okay, Brummeister, Roy Brummeister. Trust me, this guy is a seminal researcher on self-esteem. So, okay, I can go check this out. Now, real quick, I want to show you something. Let's say that I look at this article on Brummeister, seminal work, and so I'm going to go to try to find it, right? So I click on the source to go to try to find it, and lo and behold, there's an abstract. Great, we're going to come back to that, an abstract. And let's say I want to download the entire source, right? Oh, is it going to let me? Holy heck, this one lets me. I'm going to show you what to do if they don't let you. But lo and behold, here's the source, relation of threatening egotism in violence and aggression, the dark side of self-esteem. Okay? Brummeister, yeah, you can totally trust them. Psychology review, you're in good shape. So that is actually how you can use something like Wikipedia. Okay, I'm going to bring my, where's my presentation. Here we go. No, that's not what I want. I know it's been a while, guys, since I've done this, right? This is how you can use Wikipedia. You go to the page, find information that you find interesting that you want to get deeper into, and you can scroll down to the bottom, you can find the source, and it can take you directly to the article. And if not, I'm going to show you what to do. Okay? So, not bad. I use it. It's great. All right. What else besides Wikipedia? Well, sometimes you just know that there are articles out there published by folks that are fairly reputable, right? So news sources, right? So if you find something, New York Times, Washington Post, or what have you, or in the case of business, let's say the Harvard Business Review, okay? So once again, I'm going to come on over here. And let's say that we search self-esteem in the Harvard Business Review. Okay. And you find this article, man's self-esteem drops when their female partners succeed. By the way, I've read the study that this is based on. It's true. Dudes, get over yourself, right? Let's see, reclaim time, happier life, right? How to reclaim time, happier life. All right, let's look at this one. So we go ahead and we click on it. And we tried, well, that one's not going to let us do it. Let's go ahead and do the man's self-esteem drops when their female partners earn more. All right. So it says, well, the source is men feel worse about themselves. All right. So we go to the source. All right. We go ahead and click there. And this is in the American Psychological Association. You could probably cite this and be just fine. But why not go to the original source, right? So the original source is right here. Gender differences in implicit self-esteem following blah, 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 right? So I wonder if this would take, it's just going to take us to the journal article. So what we could do is we say, well, I'm going to take this because this is the actual research. And I'm going to search for it, right? And so you come over here, you search for it, and lo and behold, here it is, published to be checked out. Now, check this out. Let's say, well, okay, I want to actually download it. So, gee, how do I download it? Maybe if I click on the source there, right? And it says get access. Oh, you have to pay to get in here. There's a paywall. Hold on to that, okay? So you get all discouraged because you have to get access. Now, with that other one that I pulled up, that Brummeister one or whatever, it gave us the access. That was pretty cool. But very, very often, you're going to come up against a paywall. Hold on to that. I'm going to show you what to do. So then the other one is go to Google Scholar. This is a great source. Google Scholar is basically Google, but Google tries to feed up mostly credible sources, right? Scholarly sources. So we go ahead and we do self-esteem, and maybe if we spell it properly, that might help. Okay, so development of self-esteem. Okay, so 1981, kind of old, right? Gosh, I'm looking for one of the a seminal source. I ought to just plain type it in there. Yeah, okay. Oh, because it had questionnaire in there. Okay. A Theory of Self-Esteem, Casper, Heatherton. I don't know those folks. Okay, let's go here to A Theory of Self-Esteem. Okay, so we click here, and once again, it takes us to the publication. Great, Social Forces, and here's the abstract. And all right, I want to find the actual article, so I can click here to find the actual article. It takes me back here. I don't have access to this article. So I'm finding paywalls that are telling me to go to hell. I'm finding I don't have access and so forth. So what are you gonna do? Well, my friends, if you're part of a college or university, and those of you who are with me at Salt Lake Community College, you have access. Let me show you. Let me show you where you go. So we're going to come here and we're going to go to our library. All right. Here's the Slick Library. You scroll right down here to research databases. Boom. This site is awesome because Slick has actually paid for on your behalf. So this is one of the things you get as a student, access to all these databases where all these articles are published. And so you get them for free because you've already paid for it. So let's go ahead and try this one for a moment. Let's go ahead and do Gender Studies 1. Let's see if by coming to our Slick database, if we can actually find this one. Oh, I have to sign in. Okay, I have to sign in. Oh, for heaven's sake. Reload. Come on. Oh, page isn't working. Oh my gosh, it was going to be so awesome because it's there. It's there. So here's the idea, folks, and I'm going to come back on over here and we're going to bring that on down. The point is, any article you can find, just about any article, you can get access to through the Slick Library. Okay? So go to libraries, go to the database, and you can find anything you want. So yeah, you can totally use Wikipedia to find the seminal works. You can use places like a Harvard Business Review or any other publication, and you can use Google Scholar. And whenever you can't get access to the article you want, you go there to Salt Lake Community College and go to the database or whatever university or college you're associated with, and you're in great shape. Okay? So with that, because you guys were awesome, you really were, all right, we're going to go ahead and do our timestamp right now, right? Send me a timestamp email of 9/17, okay? So if you email me 9/17, I'm going to take care of you on this. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here, 9/17, and you will be all set. All right? So, yes, any questions? Absolutely. Please bring on any and all questions and we'll take care of them. And for those of you who don't have any questions, want to just drop off, absolutely, feel free. Thank you for joining me and send me your timestamp email. So Tony is asking, in literature reviews, there's a difference between creating a gap and finding a gap. Okay. So creating a gap or finding a gap, it's really, nomenclature here, right? All right. So let's say you're doing a literature review and you're reviewing this and you're pulling up this and so on and so forth. And like every question you can imagine, a topic such as self-esteem is covered except for this one question. And no matter what no matter how you search, you cannot find any studies that answer that question. You have found a gap in the research. And researchers love finding gaps because now they can go off and research it, right? Okay, so that is finding a gap in the research because you've done your literature review and you can't find any information about this one question. Creating a gap is when you create this study and the study, as is often the case, it raises more questions than it answers. And so now you've created all these gaps in the literature review because your study just exploded with questions. Now, quite often in a study, if you go down toward the last quarter of the article, there will be a section in there that says recommendations for future research. Recommendations for future research, and you'll also find a section that says limitations. But let's focus on recommendations. It's basically the researcher telling everybody else, hey, listen, my study, it did not answer any of these questions. Therefore, if you're interested in researching this topic, here are some recommendations for your future research, because these are gaps in my own research. So that's kind of the nuanced difference between finding a gap and creating a gap. Most of the time we just say there are gaps. So, Tony, I hope that was helpful. Any other questions from anyone? I will go ahead and just sit around here for a little bit. I'll look for questions in the comments there. But in the meantime, you guys go off, have a fantastic day and a fantastic week, and we'll talk to you again soon. We'll see you later.